Hello, this is Dustin DaHusky, and there's something I would like to really talk about. And it's something I've been seeing over the last decade. Ooh, lots of pizza. I got hiccups now. So, let's talk about furry fandom. Not surprised? Oh, you were thinking it was going to be about automobile stuff, and not this time. We're going to talk about the political divide that is happening in the furry fandom. My thought about it is, why? Why does it have to divide? Why does politics need to divide people in general? Just because they see something different than you. You may not agree, but you can't change their mind. So why worry about it? Why get worked up over something that, yes, you might be looking at a bigger picture, but to be honest, your local and regional elections matter more than a presidential election, if you really think about it. The stuff that happens within your state, your own state elections, matter more than a presidential election. Granted, the 2020 election was maybe the biggest turnout in U.S. history. So, in this case, this general election became quite important. But with politics, there's division. Unfortunately, friends cut friends away, families torn, and, division. And unnecessary amounts of division. Unfortunately, people don't know how to debate, but also people don't know not to take anything too serious and too personal. Because you know what? Even good friends can have disagreements. It shows that you're really good friends if you're willing to keep your friendship, knowing that sometimes some discussions are just stupid. And that your friendship is worth more than that. So, that's something to consider. But the one thing I just don't understand is, like in the reality that we live in, is that in the furry fandom, there are groups of people that create echo chambers. And yes, furry is quite left-leaning, but for obvious reasons. You've got people who are perhaps minorities. You have people, definitely many in the LGBTQ plus community. And there are certain groups out there that would want to take civil liberties away from minorities, LGBTQ plus community. All the things that people work hard so that they are ensured to be treated rightfully and equally among their peers. The fear of being treated like a second-class citizen. So, unfortunately, and by nature, the furry fandom is naturally left. Not to say they're all like that, but in a natural sense, people would support those kinds of, would it be policy? At this point, it'd just be rights, civil rights, equal rights. But the division, while we all like to form groups to associate ourselves between other groups of people, which is a very human, habitual thing that happens, furry included, but politics is one that, can really destroy regional communities because people on both sides have a hard time knowing when to stop to talk about politics. Because, as I mentioned before, people don't know how to debate, so things get out of control. And people forget that not to take anything too seriously and too personally, which also gets out of control. Then you have social divisions within the furry fandom, within state and local or regional communities, that they start splitting and branching off into their own echo chamber. Now, this is when I specifically say echo chamber, not just a community, because sometimes people just get pissed off and they want to do their own thing, but then the very thing that they hate the most, they're doing it too. Whether if it be how admins run a regional chat, they say it's not fair, but then again, you cause a stink, and everyone can see it, and you become too much of a burden. Unfortunately, problems must be solved. They must be met. It's part of what administrating local, regional, and statewide communities. It's not to say that we want to police people out of communities because of their different beliefs. It's just, if you don't know how to control them, kind of get out of control with it, then you become a problem. If you don't know how to. It's the thing with my regional community. We used to allow political chat until, I believe, 2018. I think it was 2018. It was in fact 2018. We were the last we were the last regional chat in our state community to allow open talk of politics until it got so overdone that it was becoming an hourly ritual. I've tried to politely tell people to tone it down. It would work for a few hours, work for a few days, and then it is back to square one. It would just keep on going. The floodgates were never closed. And people got fed up. People would leave, because you know what? If it's all that you hear all day, you tend to go insane. We understand that. It's not to say that we're one-sided, because even people who we might actually agree, we still do not want to keep listening, to keep seeing it, because eventually it just gets overdone. It gets incredibly annoying. But then someone who takes things too personally because of actions done, because their own actions get themselves into hot water, well, we do what we need to do. It's part of administrating regional communities. We see an issue, we're going to try to take as much of an honest take as we can to solve that issue. Give people warnings if need be. But if it's an issue that just keeps happening and happening and happening and happening, you gotta have more severe punishment. By removing people from chats because they just don't know how to follow chat rules already displayed and already put in place. Can't follow rules. I don't know what to say. You don't want to follow the speed limit on the roads. You want to go as fast as you want. You know what? I don't know what to say either. The rules are out there. You follow. You abide by them. And if you want to become a rebel about it, sure. You know what? I'm not stopping you. But I guess the whole point of this whole video is people are needlessly going out of their way to create opposition bubble groups to either get back at people, which honestly kind of reminds me of high school. Just this kind of stuff that I don't have time for. People who have beef with one another alright, well, I can try to mediate an issue, but if I can't seem to fix it, well, then, unfortunately, can only do so much. It's a shame that people have to be incredibly stubborn while, yes, the stuff that happens in the outside world is quite important, but to be living in it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks in a year, borderline obsessed over one thing over and over again, it's not good for the mind. It's one thing to be, what's the word? Informed. It's good to be informed. Stick to your guns. Stick to what you know. Or what you believe in. If you pushed it on other people that didn't ask for it, or kind of asking for it, but also you're just maybe looking either for people in common. I don't know. To me, I grew up in a time in this fandom where we didn't talk about politics so much. Granted, it still happened. 2004, 2008, 2012, which was maybe our last election year in the furry fandom in which it didn't really become as big as 2016. 2016 was our very first election year in this fandom where people were being incredibly politicalized. But then again, with the environment surrounding it, I can't seem to blame it. It just happened to be that 2016 was a very polarizing political year, so was 2020, and even more people are more polarized than 2016, which is a shame. And unfortunately, this divides us even further. So much so that it's personal beef, because someone is not what they want them to be, which, you know what? Your coworkers are going to think differently than you. Yeah, you may not like them, but you still got to work with them. You still got to get along. And often enough, learning to get along with people it's a lost art these days. And I wish more people would learn how to get along with people, because you're going to have to work together to get through all this together. It's not just one camp versus another, because eventually that will consume you. Often enough, smaller camps consume themselves because all of a sudden they burn themselves out. And furries are not that political anyway. There's a good number that are, but not a majority. But I definitely see the division splitting up groups of people, at least as far as my regional community is concerned. I can see that a little bit, but it's not something that is that noticeable or huge, but it is something I have noticed. But it is silly at the same time, because at the end of the day, we should all be furries. But if you have still a beef among people because of what they believe in, I don't know. Just sounds like you're taking this too personally. Again, with the being informed, you should be informed. You should at least understand what's going on, find out what you want to believe in, stick with it. But there's a limit to everything, and throwing it in people's faces all the time, people don't want to see that. Even shit, I don't want to see politics in any of my communities, because you know what? It's not something that this fandom is built upon. We're built upon the appreciation of the idea of anthropomorphics, not politics. So in my aspects, more emphasis on the furry and less on the politics. Even I've been told that some political chats in my own region have closed for, I don't know, one reason or another. I don't pay attention, because you know what? I don't care to keep finding out more of what I already know outside the fandom. I don't need to be reminded. I do not want to be reminded every time I step into another chat and they're talking about politics. And I already hear this from the outside world. So, but even political chats are becoming few and far in between, just because people either form echo chambers and stamp out whatever minority might be in it. Could be on both sides, or it just doesn't work. The mediation of trying to have good discussion just cannot exist at this point. It's not to say it will never exist. It just, right now, people are nuts. Or obsessed. I'm just more concerned that the fandom is incredibly divided because of what's going on in the outside world. There used to be a time when there was a good absorber between the world and furry. And everyone respected that. Some didn't, but a lot of people did. Why talk about politics? You're at a convention. Enjoy yourself. You're meant to be free. You're meant to be furry. Be who you'd rather want to be, but I don't know. When I hear people talk about politics at a convention, the whole crowd room of people just clears out. No one wants to hear that. Even at fur meets, sometimes you're better off leaving it alone. So, yeah, the divide sucks, but hopefully in time that will heal. It's not to say I don't want people to not be... it's not that I don't want people to be apolitical. No, that's not the point I'm trying to make. It's just make a clear... How am I supposed to explain this? Pretty much, furry, real life. Try to find a way to not make them touch too much. As far as politics is concerned, actually no, let's just redo that. Furry, politics. There should totally be a space between that. Maybe furry in real life, I guess it depends on how much you want to mix the two, but furry and politics, I don't know. I just think we've come to a point where right now it's just not a good idea to discuss it with anyone, even with people who you might assume to agree with you. It's just best to not talk about it. And unfortunately, there is still a divide, and I'm hoping that it will heal up in time. Because really the fandom should be in a better spot than what it is right now. Although, right now, we're definitely in a better spot. But I wish that people would not divide themselves from others, because you know what? They're going further and further away from furry and more into their own personal opinion. And soon enough, they get so still engrossed by it, they will eventually leave furry altogether. This has happened multiple times with some people, where politics literally rules their life. Which I think another video is going to talk about obsession, just because obsession is a bitch, and no one should ever have to obsess over one thing. Which, for a lot of people, it's politics. And when you obsess with politics, it will certainly ruin you badly. So, try to be the glue that keeps everything together, and try not to divide. And, you know, furs that have differing opinions, well, don't let that change how you think of them. Try to ignore the fact of what their political beliefs could be. Try to see around that, see if they are as good as you think they are. Because sometimes you can meet some incredible real people that have differing opinions and are respectful. And of course, you'll find the meatheads that, again, on both sides, that don't know how to debate. And will cripple any conversation that they'll have with anyone. Because they don't know how to self-control. It's not an issue for one group, or it's an issue for everyone. So, I say, please don't try to divide, because this fandom is really meant for all of us. Yeah, I don't know, it's stupid. I hate talking about this, but it's something I've noticed, and I kind of wish it wasn't the case. And it is. I guess it's just something we have to push through. So, this is Dustin DaHusky. Thanks for listening. Hopefully something of value was mentioned here. I don't know what it could be. Hopefully it just makes sense to some of you. So, anyway, have a good evening. Stay safe. Good night.